Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Your Wellbeing Hub's podcast. Delighted to be joined by Dominic once again. And we've already been chatting probably for about half an hour before we started recording, just putting the world to rights, just catching up with how life's been treating us and how the summer has been going. So welcome back, Dominic. Always great to see you. Today, our focus for our conversation is going to be around gratitude, understanding and practicing gratitude, and also the power of connections for our mental health and well-being as well. I know just before we were talking, you've been reading some articles or some research about gratitude. So maybe we can start there and we'll just have
Yeah. I mean, I think with what's going on in the world, societies, there's a lot of anxieties, uncertainty going on. But one thing's proven: when you're grateful, and gratitude really, the definition is the appreciation of someone or something that you've got in your life that makes you feel good. That's a short definition of it. And when you start to think about what you have got rather than what you haven't got, that will actually help your mental health and well-being, rather than focusing on all the negatives. And I'm just going to read this off. It was Seligman, Steen and Peterson in 2005 that stated, gratitude was shown to decrease stress levels, improve quality of sleep, build emotional awareness, thus helping us improve overall well-being. And if we can just jump on the improving sleep, when you do go to sleep, a lot of people ruminate, which they worry, about the day, the events, and what went wrong. Can't we go the other way? Because it's been proven when you focus on what went well, then that actually helps activate the hypothalamus in the brain. You get a deeper sleep, you feel better about yourself, and lo and behold, you wake up the next morning feeling refreshed. There may be other activities that you may need, breath work, but we're just focused on gratitude at the moment, focused on what went well. And we know that what we say to ourselves really affects us, whether it's positive or negative. And it's been proven with the self-talk that 77% of it is negative. 80% of it is the same as yesterday. And we were mentioning, I think, one of your family members earlier on. Was it your nephew, Sally?
Yeah.
What was happening there?
Yeah, so it was a long while ago, a few years ago now, I couldn't tell you when, but essentially my nephew had gone to see his cousin and it was just an by chance visit, and his cousin was actually really poorly, unwell, vomiting and so on and so forth. And so my nephew got really concerned and worried about that happening to him and him becoming poorly, and being poorly is boring because you have to stay in your bedroom and I don't want to be being sick and all these kind of things. And he'd really got upset and he was feeling kind of really worried, and he said, he felt like he was going to be sick. So I just took some time to sit down with him and ask him how he was doing, and I just asked him to describe all the good positive things that had happened that day during school. So playing football in the playground, I don't know, having a good maths lesson, getting to spend time with his friends. We just went through all these things and I said, oh, let's write it down together as well. And so we just took that opportunity to write it down. And then I was kind of like, how are you feeling? He's like, I feel okay. I was like, let's write that down. I feel okay. I'm good. I'm feeling well. And actually he managed to pull himself out of that kind of really worried, anxious state where he thought he was going to be kind of throwing up everywhere. So, what you've just said there in terms of our internal self-talk, that can have a huge impact, I think, on how we feel every single day, and how can we challenge some of that inner critical voice or that negative self-talk that can start to perpetuate those really difficult feelings, and the physical effects of that as well, probably feeling more stressed, more anxious. We might feel that heart rate, our breathing might very well change. So 100%, I kind of use that technique on my nephew and trying to bring him out of that really kind of horrible state that he was experiencing. And he's quite small, he's probably eight years old or something.
So that's brilliant. That's a great story, and also factual. And the evidence shows, as you're saying, that when you change what you focus on, that will change your reality. I mean, there was a famous motivational speaker, unfortunately, he's died now. I think that our viewers or audience members may know Wayne Dwyer. We mentioned this earlier. And he stated about what you focus on. If you change what you focus on, your focus will change. So what you look at, when you look at things through negative eyes all of the time, then you're going to create more of it. So what we're saying is just noticing the positives, noticing the roses, as it were. And it's also stated with one of the studies I looked at that gratitude is as powerful as an antidepressant. It's one thing saying it, but what you're saying, that's a superb idea of writing it down even maybe like a journal.
Yeah.
You know, it's been shown powerful effects of just drawing a smiley face and a
Oh,
tick.
really?
You don't even have to put "I am feeling good." You can, you know, because a lot of the children with the sensory deprivation, they use those emojis or whatever you call them, those faces to point out emotions to help them, and that is universal. You know, a smiley face. And we were talking earlier about different books, etc. One book that I've raved about for ages is The Status Syndrome by I can't think now, Professor Marmot, Michael Marmot. Really good book. And within that, he speaks about a famous book called Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. And this is an American guy who stated that social capital is all about trust, connection, reciprocal actions. But the problem is, when there's an inequality in health and financial situations in communities, that social capital diminishes. So what we're talking about is gratitude for what we have got, but maybe even helping others, because I think sometimes, we don't feel good, but we're going to have to get hold of our feelings in order to maybe help somebody else. Some of the mothers or fathers out there may know what we're talking about. No, they may not feel good or like going out to work, but they're going to do that to put food on the table for the youngster, or even get Christmas presents at Christmas time. So mothers and fathers, the mothers in particular, when they're doing, it's almost, there was something years ago called the double day shift, which was unfortunate, where women are working, but they're working again when they get home.
Yeah.
So they're doing a hell of a lot. There's a lot of mental anguish, but they're pushing themselves through that to help their children. And we suggested, didn't we, about a coffee club, perhaps?
Yeah.
Wasn't one of your friends doing that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, she is. She lives up near Birmingham, and I think it's like every Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, the mums get together, or it might be Friday morning. They get together, they spend an hour or two just venting, ranting, connecting, taking time together, really building the connections with one another and forming their own little community to be able to share the trials and tribulations of having small children and managing part-time work or full-time work or whatever else that might be going on in their lives. And I think, that the power of connection also feeds into the gratitude, because then you feel more positive about the relationship that you do have as well, and focus on that, and what you can get from that in terms of the stress relief and a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose. I think that gratitude and the power of those connections really feed into one another. So something like a coffee club, where you have the meetup groups as well.
They're good.
Some way to engage with others, but I think it's been really challenging over the last few years, hasn't it, with people feeling really disconnected.
I think so. One of the studies, coming back to the status syndrome, Professor Marmot states it's the lack of autonomy, the lack of control we have. That's one of the biggest negative effects of well-being with us all. So I'm sure we all have had a situation where we don't know something. It's the worst thing in the world. Like, say that the mom gets a phone call, your child's ill. What's the matter? She's got to wait for the phone call again to say they've located the child, he's in the sick bay or whatever that may be. So it's the not knowing. But when you've got groups, like you said, a superb idea, a coffee club, you can exchange ideas. One thing we mentioned, didn't we, about the phones? If they can put the phones away, because then that's going to detract from the actual social interactions. We're not doing the micro expressions. We're not reading each other. And also, you'll notice the children, it doesn't matter what age they are, they will start mirroring the mother. They'll mirror the mother on what they're actually doing, whether they're paying attention to them. But not just that. In that little group, those children could grow up creating a strong bond. If they keep visiting that coffee shop, some children have grown up together for 20 years or whatever that may be. So that actually helps in those circumstances. And also, you're always going to get a stronger character amongst people, male or female. So it's about understanding that everybody's different, and I think it's about this unity communities. Once we have a bit more social cohesion, and we've mentioned this before, unfortunately there's been social corrosion. This cohesion builds. This woman goes home feeling good about herself because her friends asked after her, that sort of thing. And that's what people want. You want to feel cared for, don't you?
Yeah.
you know.
And listened to and understood. And, it's amazing how many times you might really share some deep, vulnerable information with someone. And then the next week you see them and it's like you never had that conversation. And they're asking you questions and you're kind of like, I told you this last week.
Yeah,
Like, actually, what I shared with you was quite vulnerable. Were you really listening to me, or
yeah,
were you just kind of like, I don't know, being polite and kind of on the surface,
yeah, yeah,
showing that you kind of cared when actually I don't feel like you have really cared. So, our phones can get in the way of our listening skills, the
yeah.
communication, being able to get onto somebody's wavelength and empathize. So, yeah, the communication can really break down if we're distracted by phones and things like that. We have to be really intentional, I think, to create these really meaningful and trusting connections.
Definitely, and that builds on each day and every way, or when they're actually having these meetings. There was a famous coach, John Wooden, if I remember. He was a basketball coach in America. I mean, basketball's become popular here, but it's a huge sport in America, obviously. And it's about controlling controllables, because we mentioned earlier about rumination, which is worrying about something that perhaps you cannot control. So we suggested there's a few ideas earlier on we mentioned, didn't we, that to write down or think about first. Think about the things that you can change, then think about the things you can't change, and then think about the things you'd like to change, almost a wish list. You can put it down in a Venn diagram, 3 circles, or you can just do 3 separate lists.
Yeah.
But really focus on what you can change. The can't change is the bit that, well, if you can't change it, no matter how much effort you put into it, it's out of your control. And this is the bit that we're talking about. A lack of control really breeds, how should you say, a real lack of compassion for yourself, because people can be quite self-critical, and also this fear, which is what we're trying to reduce with gratitude. I mean, I just looked out the window. I've got a car. Have you got a car, Sally?
I do have a car, yes.
I feel good that I've got a car,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. Here's a suggestion as well. Okay, I live on my own. What I can do, I do drive in the car, and I feel really grateful that I've got a car, which allows me more freedom. But if I want to meet more people, guess what you can do? Get on the bus, get on the train. I was with a guy yesterday. He runs a coffee company in the Midlands successfully, Golden Cup Coffee. And he went to London with a business associate to a different city to just mix with people. It wasn't necessarily all liquid lunches, but it was seeing a different city for what it is. And he said it was great. It was really vibrant. This was a Monday afternoon going on to the Monday evening. The weather helped, I think, at the time. It was a couple of weeks ago. The weather was good. But maybe taking yourselves out of the environment, maybe that little moms group could go on a day trip somewhere.
Yeah.
Because they are conscious with each other, they're unconscious with each other, they trust each other, and then the bond is building.
Yeah.
And great for the children.
Yeah.
Going on this day trip. I mean, near me, there's a place called Twycross Zoo. Whether you believe in zoos or not, or garden centres or whatever it may be, or a park, there's different things. The coffee shop could be the base. And from there, they decide what they're going to do that day if they don't stay in the coffee shop. So there's a lot of things that they can do. There was a study, I'll just give this last study off if I can. A woman called Lisa Berkman from California stated that there are 4 main pathways by which participation in social networking affect health, in the community. Number 1, a provision of social support affects us emotionally, physically, and mentally. Social influence in communities, whether people are friendly towards you, is the connection or disconnection. Social engagement and attachment, which is the same as number 2, connecting with people. The last one, which is a biggie for all of us now with the cost of living, is access to resources and material goods. Now, going back to my car, our car, it's great to have a car, I can give people lifts, but I know you've got to be careful on that one. But with neighbourhoods, you could ask the neighbour, do they want a lift? Do they need the shopping doing or something like that? And people, I think, as you said earlier, in this day and age now, we have become disconnected, but there's still the human spirit that we yearn to be cared for, we yearn to be understood, we yearn to be listened to.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's no good just somebody sitting there looking pretty or handsome or whatever, just their body, because the mind has got to be there as well. It's the communication cycle, decoding what they say, listening, sending that information back until that cycle breaks down, hopefully not. And that's what it's about, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would you suggest also checking in, not just once but regularly, on that, if you're in that coffee group, but also what about people outside the coffee group, family members?
Yeah,
checking. Do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Particularly if we know that people are living on their own, or they might be going through a difficult time. Certainly checking in with people, because the conversation forever is, if you're not feeling okay, reach out. Well, if someone has zero energy to get out of bed, it can be very difficult to pick up a phone and reach out to someone. So actually, we need to take charge. We need to be proactive and say, no, you're really struggling at the moment. I know you're going through a difficult time. Is there anything that I can help you with? I've made a massive lasagna. Would it be helpful if I bring it over? Like, let's check in with people and do kind things for others and show the care and compassion. Because there'd certainly be gratitude for that. And actually, it makes us feel good when we do things for others without expecting anything in return. It releases that lovely hormone oxytocin. So I think certainly random acts of kindness are very powerful. Giving someone time, listening to someone fully and intently for an hour can be enough for somebody to actually feel better about their situation. So yeah, I think we can do that. Let me ask you, how do you practice gratitude? I'm mindful of the time. How do you practice gratitude? What does that mean for you?
I practice it by, in the morning when I get up, I thank for my peace, the roof over my head, my food, the car, family. Health is a big one. I think hopefully people haven't forgotten about health from a few years ago. That's a major one. How do you practice it, Sally? What do you do?
I do it last thing at night. So when I go to bed, before I close my eyes to go to sleep, I think about my day, scan for the positive, think about the opportunities that have been presented to me. Again, thankful for the roof over my head, bringing it back to basics, my health, my family, the connections that I have built. And, I do have bad days as well. I'm not, every day is a good day, in terms of sometimes I wake up and I just don't feel wonderful. But I still, at the end of the day, I think about, okay, I've not had such a good day. I felt a bit anxious. I felt a bit low. I've not felt myself, but I've accepted that. And it's okay. It's part of being human. And now I'm going to go to sleep, and tomorrow's a new day and I'll likely feel better. And that's just a nice way to also close it off and not be thinking about, oh, I've had an awful day. What's wrong with me? Why am I feeling so low? Why have I felt so anxious? There might not be an answer for it. Sometimes we just have days where we don't feel great. But accepting it, letting it in, embracing it, and kind of putting a line under it, and then tomorrow's a new day, and I'm sure tomorrow will be a better day. But still taking the time to think about, I've got a roof over my head, I've got connections, I've got people around me that I'm really grateful for, can still do that bit, but also being realistic and recognizing that everything isn't rainbows and butterflies all the time.
Yeah, good point. Brilliant. Yeah, definitely. Just, I think the moral is, or the underpinning of this is, just focus on the positives. Increase the more the positives. Any of the negatives, if you need help, you reach out to people, ask for advice, professional advice if it's something complicated. Again, with families, I think families really need to help each other, but not only that, but also neighbours, because they're a huge part of the community. But that could start on driving, but I won't go into that one at the moment, where you're hopefully being a little bit more considerate around the neighbourhood, because I know, well done, woohoo, Lewis Hamilton. If you follow the Formula One, he did win the weekend, first time in 3 years, British guy. I think, we don't have to drive like Lewis Hamilton around the streets. There's no need. I think maybe that could be the next podcast about, do we really have to be there rather than here? Too many people are rushing from here to there rather than just being. There's too much busyness going on, too much doing. So maybe the next one could be about, really, how do we stay in the now?
Being present, mindful.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much, Dominic, for your time. Really appreciate all your insights. Really fantastic. No doubt our watchers will enjoy as well. Look forward to speaking to you at the next one.
Take care. Cheers.
Cheers, you too.
Bye.